Hello, my name is Danny Allen, and I want to give you a brief demonstration of cross-site scripting. Most applications are designed to take input from a user. I type in a word smile here, and it returns that input within the context of the application. Now, cross-site scripting occurs when, instead of benign text being entered into the application, a malicious piece of script is input. In this case, I'm simply putting in a little command to pop up the number 1. Now, if the application does not properly sanitize the input or encode the output, a vulnerability appears within the application. So that was a vulnerability. What I want to do is show you an actual exploitation of this. If I inject script, and the source of that script is going to come from a third-party server, it's going to come from evilsite.com. Now that is obviously not legitimate. That's not going to happen in the real world. But most of the time, the script is going to come from a trusted site that the attacker has access to. And when that script gets injected into the application, the user has no knowledge that something malicious is going on. They can browse around. Maybe they go to log into this application. They type in their username, jsmith, and their password, demo1234, and they go to log in. And after they log in, they look at transactions. Everything that they are doing, what they don't realize, is being monitored by an external attacker. Now I'm going to switch over to the attacker view. And this person can be anywhere in the world. This is a remote attack. And you can see here, this is a command and control center, and I have found user 101, and they have made 7 requests beginning at 2:15. If I drill in on that user, you can see that from that remote location, I know their operating system, Windows XP, I know their browser, Firefox in this case. I can see all of the requests that they have made. And not only can I see the URLs, but I can actually see the page as that user saw it. So I'm not logged in as the user, but I can see the content of the page. Now, if they have interacted with that page, let's say it was the login page, not only can I see the page, but you see here the keystrokes. There's a keystroke logger running in the context of my browser. I know that I typed in jsmith, keystroke 9, that's the tab key, and then my password. And then down below, not only a keystroke logger, but all the data being sent back and forth, username and password. SSL does nothing to protect against this type of attack. It encrypts the data between the client and the server, but it doesn't encrypt the data at the client side where this attack is taking place. But I would argue that none of these things are the real business impact of cross-site scripting. The real business impact of cross-site scripting is threefold. The first is that the organization can no longer trust this user. I can force the user to make a request. I just force the user to request the feedback page. And I can force them to say, please change my password to, and I have the ability to browse through that user. I can force them to transfer funds to my account. I can force them to do things, and they don't know that they are being controlled in this way. The business impact of this is that the organization can no longer trust any requests, any transactions that come from this victim. So that's business impact number 1. The organization can't trust the user. On the reverse of that, the user can no longer trust the application. Because the attacker has the ability to inject himself into that communication flow, he can do things like put content onto the page. In this case, I'll pop up a window saying, "Hello, Danny Smith." And the remote individual, he sees that, he trusts that this is coming from the organization, and so he believes the information. Now, in an attack, I'm not going to send them a hello. I'm going to say something like, "Hello, what is your social security number?" And I will send that in real time, and I will put that content into the application. The user trusts this, and he enters 456555462. And because the attacker is taking advantage of the trust that the user has in this application, he can actually steal information. Or maybe he puts content on the page. He puts on a little login box and asks them for their username and password. So not only can the application not trust the user, but the user can no longer trust the application either. A third business outcome of this is that the network that the victim is connected to can no longer trust that browser, that computer. I can force that user to do things like, I would like you to run a port scan. And one of the powerful aspects of this is that the victim has access to something that I don't. They have access to their own network behind the corporate firewall. I can force them to tell me about all of the web-enabled devices. I've just found my own local web server here, but I can force them to find all the printers, the intranet site, all the content that is inside that network I now have access to through that user. Now, I'll take this one step further. I'm not just going to say find the server. In this case, I'm going to say I would like you to, and you're going to see here, I'm going to do this in visible mode. You'll see this crawl taking place, but I can force them to collect all that information about the inside network, and I would like you to return that to me in my remote location. So I can force them to become an attacker on my behalf. So the third business outcome is that the network can no longer trust that computer user. That is the real impact of cross-site scripting.